Look at your hands. You think you rule this planet. You are wrong. Humans make up less than 1% of Earth's biology. We are just pathetic, fragile bugs trapped inside a closed jar. And they are watching us. I am talking about plants, the silent majority, 80% of all life. What happens if every single leaf, flower, and blade of grass instantly died? You probably think we would suffocate in seconds. You have been completely lied to. The air is 21% oxygen. To even feel dizzy, it must drop below 16. Without plants, bacteria would eat their rotting corpses, consuming precious air. But oxygen levels would barely shift. You could breathe easily for another 1,000 years. So why care? Because starving is a much slower, uglier exit. Your future steak eats grass. Your favorite burger relies on wheat. Without green life, global food reserves would vanish in exactly 4 months. Society would cannibalize itself before winter. Forests are not the lungs of our world. That is a comforting myth. Amazonian jungles consume almost all the oxygen they produce just to survive. The math equals 0. Plants are the most selfish organisms ever designed by nature. Forget the outdated textbooks. They claim plants are brainless, static objects that peacefully drink sunlight. Wrong. They make decisions, communicate through chemical screams, and deliberately manipulate the climate. Some even possess the ability to count. We are dealing with alien intelligence. Let us travel back 3 billion years. Earth was an unrecognizable hellscape. Oceans were toxic soup. The atmosphere was mostly carbon. Then microscopic assassins appeared. Cyanobacteria. They started spitting out a lethal gas that rusted the entire ocean floor red. That gas was oxygen. It caused the first mass extinction. But some mutants adapted. They weaponized oxygen to extract 30 times more energy from a single molecule of sugar. Efficiency exploded. The microscopic world became a brutal arms race for power. The ancestors of plants did not invent photosynthesis. They stole it. They hunted down these efficient bacteria and swallowed them alive. Instead of digesting the prey, they enslaved them inside their own cells. We call these captive prisoners chloroplasts today. But they did not stop there. They kidnapped another microbe to burn energy in the dark: mitochondria. Every single leaf is a chimera, a fusion of 3 distinct organisms with different DNA forced to work together in eternal servitude. Photosynthesis is not just chemistry. It is a biological factory operating at the nanoscale. Carbon dioxide from our lungs enters the leaf. Inside, microscopic water wheels spin. Sunlight shatters water molecules like fragile glass. The sheer complexity defies human engineering. Top a spinach leaf. Punch holes in it. Squeeze the air out and drop it in water. In total darkness, it sinks like a stone. Turn on a bright lamp, and the magic begins. Tiny oxygen bubbles inflate the tissue. The leaf acts like a miniature submarine. Buoyancy pushes it to the surface. It is physically creating gas out of liquid and light. But plants do not make this oxygen for you. To them, oxygen is just toxic waste. You think caffeine was made to help you wake up? Wrong. Caffeine is a potent neurotoxin. It paralyzes tiny insects, destroying their nervous system so they starve to death. Humans just happen to be large enough to survive the dosage. Plants weaponize chemistry to survive. We steal their poison to fuel our endless shifts at the office. We are breathing the exhaust fumes of ancient plankton that sank to the ocean floor, untouched by bacteria. That is your life support. Look at coal. That black rock fueling our civilization is actually the corpses of ancient trees. Before fungi evolved to eat wood, dead forests piled up for millennia. They entombed themselves in swamps, locking away carbon and pumping oxygen to record highs. Fast forward millions of years, plants still dominate. But why are they green? If evolution wanted perfect solar panels, leaves would be pitch black to absorb all light. But a black leaf in the summer sun would instantly burst into flames. Green is a biological safety mechanism. Chlorophyll devours blue and red light, but spits out the green rays directly into your eyes. It is nature rejecting excess energy. Nature is not an artist. It is a pragmatic, survival-obsessed engineer. You believe leaves turn yellow in the autumn. That is a total fabrication. They were yellow the entire time. Summer leaves are packed with green chlorophyll that hides the yellow pigment beneath. Yellow is simply nature's sunscreen, waiting patiently in the shadows. When winter approaches, the plant panics. It dismantles the green sugar factories to hoard resources in its trunk. As the green fades, the yellow sunscreen is exposed. It acts as a blackout curtain to protect the dying leaf from radiation. But what about red leaves? Red is the panic button. When the yellow sunscreen fails, the plant floods the leaf with extreme chemical dye. It is biological SPF 100, a desperate shield against the harsh, unforgiving sun. How do plants know autumn is coming? They do not have calendars. They have vision. Plants see the world. Not with eyes, but with a microscopic network of photoreceptors spread across every single cell. They are watching the light change. They can distinguish blue skies from gray clouds. They measure the exact length of the red light at sunset. They track the shifting days with terrifying precision. They know what time it is, and they know where you are standing. Plants can feel you touch them. The Mimosa pudica folds its leaves away from a human finger like a terrified animal. It senses the mechanical pressure. If you beat it, the whole branch recoils. They possess an invisible nervous system. Scientists put this plant in a glass chamber. They pumped in diethyl ether, the exact same anesthesia used on human patients in surgery. Within minutes, the plant passed out. It fell asleep. It could no longer feel pain or touch. Plants do not have ears, but they hear the world. When a flower detects the specific acoustic vibration of a bee's wings, it instantly floods its nectar with extra sugar. It bribes the insect. It is a calculated auditory transaction. They can smell the dead. Roots sniff through the dark soil, hunting for the chemical scent of rotting nitrogen. When they catch the scent, they violently change direction, digging straight into corpses to feast on the nutrients. Some seeds sleep for decades, smelling the air. They wait for the distinct, sharp odor of wood smoke. When a forest fire destroys the towering trees above, the smoke signals the seeds to finally wake up. Destruction is their alarm clock. Plant a seed upside down in absolute darkness. It still grows perfectly upward. How? Inside its cells are heavy bags of starch. Gravity pulls these bags down, hitting sensory triggers. The plant feels the center of the earth. Vision, touch, hearing, smell, and balance. Plants possess all 5 human senses, distributed across millions of microscopic nodes. They are not passive decorations. They are hyper-aware, calculating biological machines, silently perceiving every single thing you do. Mimosa is harmless. But other plants have evolved into brutal, calculating killers. Venus flytraps are a cliché. Let me introduce you to the true nightmares of the botanical world. Plants that actively hunt, trap, and digest living, breathing animals. Meet the pitcher plant, a beautiful, passive trap. It secretes a paralyzing, sugary nectar. The insect gets drunk, loses its grip, and plummets into a pool of digestive acid. The plant slowly dissolves the victim alive, absorbing its flesh. And they do not just eat bugs. Some giant pitcher plants have been found digesting whole mice and frogs. They break down the bones and fur. But the undisputed champion of murder is the bladderwort. It strikes faster than a chameleon. The bladderwort opens its trap and creates a microscopic vacuum. In a fraction of a millisecond, it sucks in water and any tiny creature swimming nearby. The door slams shut. The prey is trapped in darkness, waiting to be liquefied. But do not be confused. Carnivorous plants still use photosynthesis for energy. They only murder for fertilizer. The soil they live in lacks nitrogen and phosphorus, so they extract these raw minerals directly from the blood and guts of the innocent. Some plants chose humiliation over murder. One pitcher plant evolved its shape to perfectly reflect bat echolocation. Bats sleep inside the pitcher during the day. In return for shelter, the bat leaves its droppings inside the plant. It is a living toilet. Another plant bribes a small mammal called a tree shrew. The nectar contains a powerful laxative. While the shrew licks the sugar, its bowels relax and it defecates directly into the plant's mouth. Nature is utterly devoid of dignity. Back to the Venus flytrap. How does it know when to snap shut? It uses dual authentication. The trap has sensory hairs. Touch one, nothing happens. It waits. Touch a second hair within 20 seconds, and the trap slams shut. This requires memory. The plant remembers the first touch and counts to 2 before spending energy on the trap. Connect a flytrap to an oscilloscope, and you will see actual electrical spikes. They fire electrical signals exactly like human neurons. If a caterpillar bites a leaf, a powerful electrical wave of calcium floods the entire plant. It screams in biological terror. It is not pain, but a calculated distress signal. The plant immediately begins synthesizing defensive toxins to poison the attacker. In one experiment, scientists connected a mimosa plant to a flytrap with a copper wire. They touched the mimosa. The electrical signal traveled down the wire, entered the flytrap, and triggered its jaws to slam shut. The plants had physically networked. Plants even manipulate the electrical fields of insects. Flying bees generate a positive electrical charge from friction. Flowers maintain a negative charge. When a bee lands, the electrical snap instantly glues the pollen to the insect. Once the flower is pollinated, its charge flips. The next bee feels this invisible magnetic warning and ignores the flower, saving time. It is a wireless biological internet, broadcasting real-time data to passing animals. But their true language is chemical. When a giraffe eats an acacia tree, the tree releases a gas called ethylene. It is an airborne scream. Neighboring trees smell it and instantly pump their own leaves full of toxic tannins. If the giraffe keeps eating, the toxic tannins will paralyze its stomach, causing a painful, agonizing death. The trees warn each other to prepare for war. The entire forest operates as a single, heavily armed military unit. Have you ever enjoyed the smell of freshly cut grass? You thought it was pleasant. You were wrong. That smell is the terrified scream of a dying lawn, broadcasting a frantic warning to the grass that has not been cut yet. The sweet scent of jasmine is no different. When insects attack, the jasmine plant floods the air with toxic gas. It is not perfume. It is biological warfare. ordering its neighbors to arm their chemical weapons immediately. Some plants practice the dark art of assassination. When caterpillars eat corn, the corn releases a specific chemical distress call. It summons parasitic wasps. The wasps arrive, hunt down the caterpillars, and lay eggs inside their living bodies. The enemy of my enemy is my hitman. Bean plants do the exact same thing. When bitten by a spider mite, the plant screams for a larger, predatory mite. The predator arrives and butchers the attackers. Plants are ruthless mafiosos. What about disease? Plants do not have a heart. They have no bloodstream to pump white blood cells. Instead, their immune system is decentralized. Every single cell is an independent fortress equipped with its own alarm system and self-destruct button. If a parasitic fungus hacks into a plant cell, the cell does not wait for help. It detects the foreign proteins, initiates a lockdown, and violently commits suicide. The cell detonates, burning out the infection before it can spread. Plants even get cancer. A bacteria called agrobacterium acts like a genetic hacker. It injects its own DNA straight into the plant's chromosomes. It commands the plant's hormones to divide infinitely, creating a giant, hideous, cancerous tumor. But the plant fights back with its own chemotherapy. It floods the tumor with a heavy dose of GABA acid. In humans, this puts us to sleep. In bacteria, it silences their communication and completely halts the growth of the tumor. All else fails, a tree will perform brutal self-surgery. If a branch rots, the tree chemically seals off the dead wood. It is exactly like a submarine closing the heavy steel blast doors of a flooded compartment. This decentralized body makes plants practically immortal. Animal cells have a hard limit. They can only divide 50 to 70 times before the DNA copier breaks down. This is the Hayflick limit. It is the reason you will grow old and die. Plants do not care about the Hayflick limit. Their cells can divide endlessly without taking damage. A tree does not age. It just gets bigger. Some plants achieve immortality by creating aggressive, weaponized monopolies. Welcome to the Amazon. Deep in the jungle, there are zones called Devil's Gardens. Only one species of tree grows there. It has an alliance with an army of toxic ants. The ants systematically execute any rival plant that dares to sprout in their territory. But true horror belongs to the strangler fig. It drops a single seed into the canopy of a giant tree. Roots slowly descend like dripping wax, wrapping around the host tree in a suffocating cage of solid wood. The strangler fig crushes its host to death, starving it of sunlight and water. The original tree rots away entirely. The strangler fig remains standing alone, a hollow, living wooden skeleton built upon a murdered corpse. Finally, the ultimate pyromaniac, cheatgrass. It grows fast, dries out, and deliberately catches fire. The raging inferno obliterates all competing forests. The cheatgrass seeds survive deep underground, rising from the ashes to conquer the burned, dead world. Let's do some math. A pine tree weighs 2 tons. Where does it get 2 tons of physical matter to build its body? You probably think it eats the soil. You are completely wrong. In the 17th century, a scientist planted a tiny willow tree in 90 kilograms of dry dirt. He watered it for 5 years. The tree grew to 75 kilograms. He weighed the dirt again. The dirt had only lost 60 grams. He assumed the tree was built entirely out of the water, but he was mistaken. Plants are actually built out of thin air. They pull carbon dioxide gas out of the wind and physically weave it into solid wood. Every animal, car, and factory exhales carbon. Trees inhale that invisible gas and crystallize it into sugar, then into heavy cellulose. When you hold a heavy wooden chair, You are holding solidified, frozen air. If a tree has no heart to pump fluid, how does it move water up 100 meters against gravity? It uses physics. The leaves evaporate water into the sky, creating a microscopic vacuum. This vacuum pulls the next drop of water up to replace it, sucking water from the roots all the way to the top like a giant drinking straw. But the tree only keeps a tiny fraction of that water for itself. 97% of the water pulled from the ground is immediately blasted out of the leaves as invisible vapor. This gigantic biological plumbing system controls the climate. The Amazon rainforest physically creates its own rain clouds from scratch. All plants stop evaporating water. The sky stops raining. Forests operate as planetary air conditioners, cooling the entire globe. Without them, the continents would turn into boiling, uninhabitable ovens. To perform this monumental task, trees had to invent a grim survival strategy. When you walk through a beautiful, lush forest, you are actually walking through a graveyard. 95% of a living tree is already dead. The entire solid core of the trunk is made of dead, empty cellular corpses. Only a paper-thin layer under the bark is alive. The tree deliberately kills its own inner cells to build a rigid skeleton of mummified wood. This zombie structure allows them to grow straight up into the sunlight without collapsing. But there is a ceiling. Physics limits how high the vacuum pump can suck water. At 130 meters, the pump fails. The tree stops growing. So instead of growing up, some trees grow out. Meet Pando. It looks like a huge forest of 50,000 trees in Utah. But your eyes are deceiving you. It is a single, uninterrupted biological organism. Pando is a clone army. One tree copied itself underground, sending up thousands of identical trunks from a shared root system. It weighs 6,000 tons and has been swallowing the land for 12,000 years. But 12,000 years is nothing. Hidden away on an island is Lomatia tasmanica. It has been cloning its own body to avoid extinction for over 40,000 years. It simply drops a branch, which instantly sprouts into a perfect duplicate. Even that is a joke compared to the true god of the deep. Buried in the Mediterranean Sea is a colossal meadow of seagrass. It has been spreading its roots endlessly through the sand for 200,000 years. These immortal plants prove a chilling point. Plants cannot run away from danger. They do not have legs, but they do not care, because they can survive the most apocalyptic cataclysms in the history of the Earth. Let's travel back 252 million years, the Permian extinction. Colossal volcanoes erupted across Siberia. They pumped millions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere, triggering a lethal greenhouse effect. The oceans boiled. A global drought scorched the continents. Every single forest on the planet died. The trees were completely wiped out. But life did not end. It just adapted to the nightmare. While the giant trees burned, tiny primitive grasses survived. They clung to the bare, scorching rocks, drinking the toxic air. When the earth finally cooled down, those tiny survivors evolved back into towering forests. Plants rebuilt the world. Fast forward to 66 million years ago. A rock the size of a city smashes into the ocean. The dinosaurs are incinerated. The entire globe is engulfed in a firestorm. The great conifer forests burned to ash. The sun was completely blocked by a thick blanket of soot and dust. The earth went dark. A long, freezing, sunlight-starved winter began. But buried deep inside the cooling ash were millions of microscopic spores and tough seeds. They entered a state of suspended animation. They slept in the dark, frozen wasteland for years, simply waiting. When the dust finally settled, ferns were the first to awaken. Ferns do not need much sunlight to thrive. They aggressively colonized the dead, blackened planet, blanketing the scorched earth in a sea of green. Although the ferns came the flowering plants, they exploded in diversity, conquering the new world. The asteroid did not destroy the plants. It simply cleared the board so they could invent new, deadlier weapons. Almost 13,000 years ago, the last great ice age grips Europe. Unforgiving glaciers crush the continents. The land is frozen solid. Most animals starve or freeze to death.
But the trees were smarter. Small populations hid in deep, sheltered valleys. These ecological refugees blocked the harsh winds and the crushing ice. The trees huddled together in these safe zones, patiently waiting out the freeze.
When the glaciers finally retreated, the trees marched out of their bunkers. They repopulated the entire continent, reclaiming their lost territory faster than any animal could. They always win the long game. Today, humans are obsessed with the threat of a global nuclear war. We fear a nuclear winter that would block out the sun for years. We imagine a dead, radioactive wasteland where nothing survives. Yes, a nuclear winter would destroy human agriculture. Our delicate crops would fail. The supermarkets would empty. Humanity would starve in the dark. But for the kingdom of plants, a nuclear winter is a minor inconvenience. They have already survived far worse. A few bombs and some radioactive dust cannot compete with a 6-mile-wide asteroid. Humans could never exterminate all the plants on Earth, even if we tried our hardest. Plants are the undisputed masters of this planet. They are the oldest, the largest, and the most influential organisms to ever exist. We humans suffer from a severe delusion of grandeur. We think we are in control. We build towering skyscrapers of glass and steel. We pave over the dirt with impermeable concrete. We draw lines on maps and claim we own the earth. We invented agriculture. We think we enslaved corn and wheat. We forced them to grow in neat, orderly rows to feed our civilization. We truly believe we are the masters of the harvest. But who enslaved who? Corn was a tiny, useless, pathetic weed in Mexico. It produced almost no food. Left alone, it would have died out or remained entirely insignificant in the wild. Now, it covers millions of square miles. We brutally cut down entire, diverse ecosystems, burning down ancient forests just to give this one specific plant more room to grow. We bring it water. We aggressively kill its insect enemies with toxic pesticides. We painstakingly harvest its seeds and spread them globally. Corn didn't lift a single finger. It successfully manipulated humanity into becoming its dedicated, unpaid biological servants. We are not the masters of agriculture. We are just heavily armed worker bees serving a plant empire. Even our cities are fragile illusions. Concrete and steel. If humanity vanished tomorrow, roots would crack highways. Vines would violently drag down our monuments. Our proudest cities would be swallowed whole by a merciless tsunami of green. Steel rusts, concrete crumbles, but roots only grow thicker. Within a few centuries, all evidence of human civilization would be gone. Even now, they are using us. We panic about our carbon emissions. We desperately try to filter our exhaust. But the plants are quietly gorging themselves on our waste, turning it into their own flesh. We think we are poisoning the earth, but we are just fertilizing their inevitable empire. We are their willing food supply. They are farming us, waiting patiently for us to finish destroying ourselves. Look at the potted plant sitting on your windowsill. You water it, you give it sunlight, you talk to it. You think it is your helpless pet, trapped in a tiny plastic prison. The truth is far darker. That plant is an immortal scout for a global, decentralized intelligence. It is watching you. It is studying your weaknesses. It knows you are fragile, mortal, and short-lived. While your cells degrade, hit their limit, and slowly kill you, that plant will never age. It will sit there, perfect and unchanging, until the day your heart finally stops beating. And when you are finally buried in the cold, dark dirt, the plants will send down their roots. They will pierce the wood of your coffin. They will violently crack open your bones. They will suck the nitrogen and calcium straight from your decaying marrow. They will use your dissolved corpse as fertilizer to grow thicker, stronger, and taller. You are nothing but compost for the true rulers. So keep watering that fern. Keep talking to your succulents. They are the supreme owners of this rock, and they will still be here long after the last human breath fades into silence. You might think we can escape this green empire. You might look up at the stars and dream of colonizing Mars. You imagine human cities built on dead red rocks, far away from Earth. But Mars has no atmosphere. It has no oxygen. It is a suffocating radioactive void. If humans ever want to survive on another planet, we cannot go alone. We have to bring them with us. We will build huge glass domes on alien worlds, not for us, but for them. We will carefully engineer the soil. We will adjust the temperature perfectly, just to keep them happy and growing. We are not space explorers. We are just their interstellar delivery system. We will spend trillions of dollars and risk our lives to transport their seeds across the freezing vacuum of space. And once we arrive, we will act as their loyal servants once again, pumping their water, monitoring their light, and ensuring their survival above our own. Because without them, we will choke to death in minutes. Think about the sheer arrogance. We name our spaceships after human gods. We plant our tiny fabric flags in the dust. But the true colonizers will be the green algae and the potatoes we carried inside. Plants do not need to build rockets. They simply domesticated an ape species smart enough to build rockets for them. We are their biological astronauts, completely unaware of our true pathetic purpose in the universe. Eventually, human civilization on Earth will collapse, whether by our own weapons, a sudden climate shift, or another asteroid impact. The concrete will shatter. The steel will rot away. In a few million years, an alien species might visit our planet. They will not find our smartphones. They will not find our history books. They will just find an endless, beautiful, silent green ocean. They will scan the planet and assume it is ruled by a singular, supreme intelligence, a planetary hive mind of trees, vines, and roots communicating endlessly through chemical whispers and electrical pulses. And they will be completely right. The plants have always been here. We were just a brief, noisy interruption, a slight disturbance in the dirt, before the forest closed over us forever. So, when you step outside tomorrow, do not look down on the grass. Look at it with the deep, chilling respect it deserves. It is not your lawn. You are just a temporary guest on its property. Sleep well tonight. Keep breathing that fresh oxygen. They made it just for you. And when they finally decide you are no longer useful, they will take it all back. Good night.